Alright guys, how's it going? I'm the Crown Clown, and today we're doing What If Deku Was the Reincarnation of Grimmjow? I kept you guys waiting on this one long enough, so let's jump into it. But before we do, I got a few little things to say. Since we have not met 4K, you guys will not get the new intro yet. That is going to be going forward from 4K forward. So, at the time of this recording, we are 9 subs away from 4K. I would love to be able to hit that before the end of the day, because if we do, then you guys will be getting tomorrow 2 videos. Instead of 1, you'll get 2. Because today, Grimmjow is going to be the only video up today. Tomorrow, if we still don't hit 4K, then, which very unlikely, but still it could happen. So if we don't, you'll get Fairy Tail. And yeah, so because I gotta wrap Fairy Tail up this week, so expect a lot more of the Fairy Tail what ifs this week to just wrap that up. And yeah, so with that long-winded intro out of the way, let's jump into What If Deku Was the Reincarnation of Grimmjow, Part 1. Part 1s are always kind of my favorite because I get to set everything up quite nicely. And yeah, so how this is going to work is that there's not going to be a whole lot of Bleach characters. Okay, there's just not. The only Bleach character I'm going to add in is another Espada, but you'll see that when we get to him. Anyway, so with that out of the way, let's jump into. So it starts off when Deku's born, right? So when Deku's born, he still has Inko as a mother, Hisashi as a father, and when Deku is born, he's born with light blue hair. And Hisashi's just like, okay, something's not adding up right here. Because Inko has light green hair, Hisashi has, what I'm assuming, black hair. So Hisashi's thinking Inko cheated on her. And to be honest, Inko's swearing up and down she didn't cheat, none of that happened. It's just a weird, unexpected thing, like she doesn't know what happened. And so the doctors start running some tests. As for when they do, like, they can't find out why Deku's hair is just this color. There's nothing in their parents' genetics that should have made him have this type of blue hair or anything like that whatsoever. So this is a complete and total conundrum to all of them. They're just like so confused as to how this happened. And they start looking into Deku's DNA. They take a blood sample from him and they start looking in at all his DNA, his genetic structure. And they notice something off with his genetic structure. As they say, it seems that the reason for his light blue hair is that he's just has a mutation in his cells. Like, it's a birth defect. There's nothing we can do to fix it. You're just gonna have to live with it. The kid is your child's, like, completely. The kid is the son of Hisashi and Inko Midoriya. Like, there's nothing wrong with him besides a slight birth defect. As Hisashi's like, okay, that makes me feel a lot better, Inko. So they take Deku home, and they're not sure to the extent of the birth defect, but at the same time, they really are just like super confused about what's actually going to happen with Deku growing up. So they're a lot more overprotective. Like, Inko's still Inko, except like she doesn't let herself go. Because growing up, Deku is very bold, he's outgoing, and he's very physically strong right off the bat. Like, without any of his powers manifesting, his physical strength is immense right off the bat. And they don't know where he's getting this from. Like, whatever. They just think it's a side effect of the birth defect. And Deku showing off that strength means Bakugo's not going to try to bully him. Not anytime soon. Not whatsoever. So they grow up as friends, and Bakugo's not bullying Deku until it's time to get their quirks assessments. And when Bakugo gets his quirk, and of course, he still tries to pop off to Deku and all that, but he actually doesn't really get a whole lot before Deku accidentally has a fucking Sero go off and just blast through the wall, and everyone's just like, Deku has the cooler quirk, and Bakugo's just like, oh, come on, this this isn't even funny. So, Bakugo is growing up being inferior to Deku, which does cause an inferiority complex to happen. And because of this, Mitsuki chooses to send Bakugo to a different middle school than Deku to try and get him to have some confidence in himself. And Deku never bullied Bakugo because even though Deku, he's outgoing on all that, he's not a jerk. Like, he respects his friends who he grew up with, like Bakugo. He really respects him, but Bakugo just has no confidence when hanging around Deku because he thinks of himself as, like, worse, like he's inferior. And with inferiority complexes, it tends to get very angry when you're compared to someone that you feel inferior to. So Bakugo's parents are trying to really minimize that and straighten it out. And so, yeah, Bakugo, he's sent to a different middle school. Now, Deku growing up in middle school, it's very different. Like, with nobody there to really balance him out like Bakugo was, because Bakugo was always the kid that calmed Deku down, because Deku does have anger issues of his own. So with that, Deku actually gets into a lot more fist fight with students at his middle school, and he's getting this kind of juvenile reputation right off the bat, because like Deku's parents, they put him in boxing classes to try and balance him out, but Deku just uses that to his advantage at school, and with his already massive strength, he's just beating people down left and right. His blue hair, it's still like in his normal looking state. He still has that long hair, but it's just blue instead. And Deku's really just overly violent. Whenever somebody pisses him off, he'll start getting into a stance, jumping around a little bit, and then as soon as somebody steps up to him, he just hauls off and whoops their ass. And that goes on for about 3 years. And the teachers, they try to do something. The principal tries to do something. And one time the principal tries to lay his hands on Deku, and Deku whoops the principal's ass. Like, he's just said, reverse Uno card, no, you getting your ass whooped. And yeah, Deku, he really just takes no shit. So there's no one to bully him, so the sludge villain incident, it doesn't happen to Deku whatsoever. And Bakugo goes to a different school, so meaning it doesn't happen to Bakugo. But there were some other students with Bakugo around there, so it happens to one of them. Deku gives no fucks about them, so he doesn't meet All Might. He keeps moving on, and honestly, like, one of his other friends, like, they get just absorbed by the sludge villain, and All Might has to try and save them. But the sludge villain does eventually get away, because I mean, really, all the villains were just standing there, and without Deku to really give All Might that type of push, but beyond his time limit, All Might really wouldn't have done anything. So the sludge villain gets away with a kid's body, and it's all over the news when Deku gets home, and he's just like, kind of pathetic if the heroes couldn't handle a piece of sludge. And Inko just says, you know, you were a lot sweeter when you were a kid. And Hisashi, he actually stands up for Deku against Inko. He just says that his son has the abilities, he has the power, and on top of that, he's defending himself. He doesn't take crap from anyone. This is what we want out of our son. We want him to be open-minded, stand up for himself. But son, you need to just calm down. You just can't go around beating everybody. And Deku, he listens to his dad over anyone. Him and Hisashi have a very close bond, because ever since Deku was a child, Inko tried to smother him, and Hisashi always told Inko to let Deku have his space. So Deku, he respects his father more than anyone else in the entire world, and he tells his dad that he'll work on it. And you know, so after that whole incident happens, like, next days at school go on, and everybody's like kind of worried about that guy. Deku really doesn't care. And yeah, I'm gonna say the sludge villain happened earlier. It's not that day where everybody just went woo crazy, but No, it's a few days before that. So, yeah. With Deku there, he's actually kind of just worried about how is he actually going to train for UA without really hurting anybody. His quote-unquote quirk, which they've dubbed it as light energy projection, as Deku can feel it's something other than that. He can feel this animalistic urge inside of him just crawling at the gates, ready to be unleashed. So, actually, one day when he's walking home, he notices the sky literally tears itself open. He thinks he's hallucinating. He thinks somebody spiked one of his drinks and he's just seeing shit. He's just like, what the fuck is that? And down comes this gorgeous woman with long, light green flowing hair. And she really just looks at Deku and says, Grimmjow, I didn't know you were back. And Deku says, who the fuck is Grimmjow? My name's Izuku Midoriya. And she says, oh, of course, my bad. You just remind me of someone that I really used to know. And awfully lot like him, if I'm being honest. And Deku's like, okay. Who was he and who are you? She says, oh, my name is Nelliel. And I'm an Espada. And Deku says, what now? I've never heard of a citizen from that country. Like, what are you? And Nell says, I have to forget, it's been over 5 centuries since the whole Soul Society fiasco and all that, so you guys know nothing. I forget. Anyways, come with me and everything will be explained, and I can actually help you train your powers. And Deku's like, blow off 2 days of school or get to use my powers. Yeah, I think I'll blow off 2 days of school and use my powers. And he's just goes with Nell, like, no questions. He gives no fucks. Like, yeah, he just sends his mom a text that he's going out with some friends for a few days. He'll be back. Inko's worrying. She's like, oh yeah, I got you. At least you texted. And then he goes with Nell. The sky closes back up. But somebody was watching that. And somebody was paying very close attention to it. That somebody being a pro hero. But it's not All Might. So I hope you guys can guess who it is. Because it'll be very interesting later on in the story. But yeah. So after that, Nell just basically explains the whole deal with Hollows, with Soul Reapers, all that, the Rietsu that Deku's using. And he's like, wait, Rietsu? She's like, yeah, you're using spiritual pressure, Rietsu that's in the air, into your powers. And since nobody else is using it, there's an abundance of it, meaning your powers are off the hook. Like, they're just skyrocketing with no cap to it whatsoever. If you were to really get serious and use your powers, you could probably level that entire city that you live in. And Deku's just like, wait, you mean I'm that strong? She's like, yeah, but so far you've done pretty good keeping a cap on it, but I can tell that your powers are getting a bit more wild, and that's just because Grimmjow's spirit inside of you is being restless, the inner hollow in you, I should say. It's not really Grimmjow anymore. Since his whole personality, consciousness has faded away, it's kind of just like a hollow version of yourself. But it's... And Deku's like, yeah, I can understand. It's supposed to be Grimmjow. She's like, yeah, after all, you are his reincarnation. And Deku's like, wait, reincarnation's a thing? And I'm somebody named Grimmjow? That's kind of a lame name, not gonna lie. And she said, yeah, well, you were Espada number 6, so... And Deku says, Espada number 6? Excuse me? There were numbers? How many of you freaks were there? And Nell tells him, well, there was 10, but now there's 1. Me. Well, 2 now, if you can ever become an Espada again. And Deku's like, I don't think I want to. And as soon as he steps into Hueco Mundo, he notices the hole in his stomach opens up immediately. He's like, the fuck is this? as he just puts his own arm through his hole. He's like, there's nothing there. Why is there nothing there? And Nell says, that's just your body reacting to Echo Mundo for the first time in a long time. And Deku's like, so I'm not myself, am I? And Nell tells him, no, you're not. Not at all. Not right now. But at the same time, you're not him either. You're somewhere in the middle. And Deku says, teach me to control this and to get rid of this damn hole. She's like, hollows don't get rid of their holes. Sorry. And on Deku's face, there appears a half mask. And he's like, is this part of the thing too? She's like, you see mine. Deku's like, damn it. Okay, at least the mask is cool. The mask is cool. The hole needs to go. The mask can stay. The hole needs to go. Like, I don't care what it is. And she's just like, look, it's not happening. Okay, sorry, but that's just not happening. And Deku's actually pretty pissed off. He's just like, man, this is fucked up. This is fucked up. As she says, think fast. As she does a spin kick and kicks Deku straight in the face, sending him flying. Deku gets back up on his feet, but he realizes he just got knocked 5 miles back. And he's just like, how the fuck did I survive that? And she's just like, you're a hollow, start acting like it. And Deku just says, okay, bet. As he just does what he instinctively does and shoots out a fucking Sero, a red Sero. And Nell just deflects it right off the bat. As she rushes at him, she's not going to draw her sword because she doesn't need to. But she does start beating Deku's ass, like hand-to-hand combat style. Like, she's beating his ass. And Deku's just like, okay, stop. Normally, I'd be all for a fight like this. But I'm wore the fuck out for some reason. And she just tells him, well, obviously, considering you were just in your own Earth for like, 15 years? And now you come over to here? And Deku's like, yeah. She's like, do you even have any friends? And Deku's like, well, I did a long time ago, but he kind of moved away, and I don't know why, but I don't think we're friends anymore. He's never contacted me since then. And she says, did you make any new ones? And Deku says, not really. Too many people wanted to test me, so I beat their ass. Is that alright? And she's like, you are definitely Grimmjow's reincarnation. That's the same thing he'd do. He never had any friends. The one friend he did make beat his ass and nearly killed him. And his name was Ichigo Kurosaki. As Deku's just like, Ichigo Kurosaki. As he says that, he could feel something inside of him pulsating at that name. And he just starts to grin maniacally. And he's just like, I remember him. And Deku's like, wait a minute, how do I remember him? And that's when Nell just tells him, like, look, you're having some memories and some names will trigger your inner soul's hollow. With that being Grimmjow's soul, of course. Even though his personality is gone, his memory and soul are still there. But it's not you. His soul might be inside of you, but it's like you and him are sharing the same vessel. Each of you equally belong in that body. After all, your personalities are similar, but there are differences. And Deku would say, okay, what are the differences? And Nell says, I've been watching you for a long time. You respect your family, your father mostly. And on top of that, you actually do cherish people in your lives. Grimmjow never did any of that. There was never anybody that could ever boss him around. He hardly ever cherished a person. So, with that, means that you are significantly different than Grimmjow himself. So let that put your mind at ease. You have his powers. You even have his hair color. But you're still you. And after all, aren't you gonna call upon your Zanpakuto toe? As Deku says Zanpakuto wo, and she says, not wo, toe. As Deku, he just says, excuse me, what do you mean Zanpakuto toe? The fuck is that? As she says, your sword, are you gonna call from the sword? And Deku just says, I have no idea what this sword would even be called. A Zanpakuto wo, Zanpakuto toe, tomato, potato, like, who cares? Do I really need it? And she says, well, yes. It's how you're going to summon that power of yours. That's how you go into your release state. That gives you more power, everything, your resurrection. Like, are you seriously saying you don't want to learn that? And Deku says, I only got 10 months. How am I supposed to learn all that in 10 months? As she says, yeah, you're going to be staying here for 10 months. And Deku's like, I can't stay here for 10 whole months, lady. That's insanity. And she says, I'll just go ask your parents. Stay right here and try not to die. As Deku says, die from what? Boredom? Dehydration? As Nell just leaves. As Deku says, the audacity of this woman. If I knew how to get out of here, I'd leave. Damn it, she's definitely teaching me that. I don't give a fuck. She's definitely teaching me how to get the fuck up out of here. As he just looks around, he sees this castle. Well, what's left of a castle. So he heads that away. He says, at least some shade or something to eat, drink. I'm dying of thirst here. How do these people live? And that's when he hears a voice saying, boy, you sure bitch a lot, don't you? As Deku says, who the fuck said that? And he hears the voice again. Don't you know? Can't you hear me? Where else do you think it's coming from? There's nobody else around. And Deku's just looking around. He's like, if you're trying to talk to me, could you at least show yourself? As, you know, the voice just says, look inside yourself and you'll see me. And Deku's like, can you at least tell me your fucking name? As he says, it's Pantera. And Deku says, Pantera? And as soon as he says that, his mind goes blank for a second and he can see somebody. It looks exactly like him, except it has white hair, bleach white skin, and he's just looking all around. He's just like, okay, this is a bit weird. What is this place? Did I leave that other place to get to this equally a shitty place? And the voice just tells him again, like, you sure bitch a lot. We're inside your own mental world. As Dexter, wait, this is the world inside my mind. Why is it so shitty? And Pantera just tells him, well, obviously you have a shitty mind. And Deku says, I'm rather quite smart, you know, and Pantera says, for a human, for a hollow, you're dumb as fuck. As Deku's like, are you seriously just gonna be this rude? You're inside my body. And Pantera says, not by choice, kid. Not by choice. Damn, Grimmjow chose to leave me behind in a kid like this. Fuck is wrong with him? Oh well, can't pick your reincarnation, I guess. And Deku's like, wait a minute. Who are you exactly? As Pantera says, I'm your Zanpakuto toe. Pantera. Now then, you gonna fucking just sit around all day? You gonna finally call me out of your body so I can actually take my sword form, which will be greatly appreciated, mind you. And Deku just says, fine, I guess I'll call you out. So as soon as the sky opens back up, he can just feel it, and he says, come, Pantera. So yeah, Nelio comes back and she says, okay, it's cool with your parents for you to stay here for 10 months. And, oh, you got your Zanbakuto. Okay. Well, that's good. I'm glad you managed that. How did you do that exactly? And Deku says, well, Pantera had a conversation with me in my head, and he just told me that I am pretty stupid for a espada and hollow. As Nell says, yeah, you actually are. So yeah, don't worry about that. But hey, we'll fix it eventually, right? Like yeah, don't worry, you'll be all right. As Deku's just like, okay. She says, but I don't think you're ready to train with the Zanpakuto quite yet. Not now of all times. As Deku says, what do you mean? You told me to call it forth, and now you're saying that I'm not ready to actually use it? As she's, yeah, you're just you're not ready yet. As Deku's like, all right, fine. What's first? She says, hand-to-hand combat training. Deku's like, I'm already good at that. She's like, you're not good enough at all. Deku says, fine. So for 6 months, she drills it in to Deku with hand-to-hand combat. So within 6 months in Hueco Mundo, Deku's physical body is equal to that of Grimmjow's in Bleach. And he's an expert, and I mean even beyond where Grimmjow was, of expertise in hand-to-hand combat, to where he could actually go hand-to-hand with Nell even when she's using her sword. That's how good Deku got. And that's before training with his sword, which he's got 4 more months to train with his sword. He won't get anywhere near to an expert swordsman, but he will get somewhere to where he's pretty decent at it. So Deku's actually going pretty good on his swordsman training and all that. So by the end of the 10 months, Deku is ready. He's learned to control the amounts of spiritual pressure he puts out and able to produce, how to kind of use the Sero correctly, and honestly his physical strength, he's able to leave a huge crater the size of an apartment complex in Hueco Mundo, which has more density than the actual real world. So if he can put a whole crater the size of an apartment complex in Hueco Mundo, that means he could probably put a crater the size of a small town in the real world because of that density scaling right there. So with that, he goes back and he sees his parents. They have a meal, they catch up. Deku is actually a bit more mellowed out. He's not as battle hungry, but he does sometimes go into a berserker-like state just because of all the combat he's had to go through. But he's a lot more disciplined now. Nell really beat some respect and discipline into Deku, I'm not even gonna lie. For the first 3 months, Deku was just getting his ass whooped every day. So yeah, he's got some discipline put into him now. And Inko's actually very surprised at how well Nell just literally beat the dog piss out of Deku. And Izashi's actually teasing Deku about it, and Deku's just like, oh, come on. She's way older. She's got centuries of experience. What was I going to do against that? He says, have you ever beaten her in a fight yet? And Deku says, not even once. I've got close though. And Izashi says, did you actually get close, or was she just going easy on you? And Deku says, I got close when she was using one arm. And Izashi's like, that sounds a bit better. And Deku's like, it's better than nothing. After all, she's way stronger than All Might, so I'm pretty sure I could beat All Might's ass. And Hisashi says, I'm pretty sure you could. And Inko says, I kind of doubt that. It's All Might. And Inko's not really grasping the whole thing that Deku and Hisashi are. Inko's kind of slow on the uptake. After all, seeing is believing, and she's not really seen a whole lot of it yet. So, yeah. The time has come for the entrance exam. Deku's already pretty smart, so he still passes the entrance exam with flying colors in this. But yeah, anyways, getting ahead of myself. So on his way there, he doesn't actually bump into Uraraka. Like, Deku's not really wanting to get caught up with other people at all. So yeah, and since basically skipped the last couple days of middle school, people aren't really surprised to see him at the entrance exam. They thought he just dropped out. But basically everybody there is already whispering and spreading rumors about Deku and all that, which do get back to Ida. And Ida, he says, if you're wanting to be a hero, you should probably not have such juvenile rumors going on about you. And Deku says, well, they're just saying what's true. I did fight a lot of people, and I did put a lot of people in the hospital. But what they're neglecting to say is they all started the fights, and I just finished them. And I never even used my quirk. So, yeah. How about you get off your high horse and stop looking down on me, you pissant? As basically Ida's just like, the hell did you just call me? Do you even know what family I'm from? And Deku says, I don't give a fuck about your family. I don't give a fuck about social standings. If you're strong, I respect you. If you're weak, you're trash. Get the fuck out my face. And basically Ida's just like, the fuck? And he just pushes Ida right out of his way and says, I'm going in to take the test. If you want to stand around and have a pissing contest, do it with somebody else. I'm kind of busy at the moment actually trying to get into this school. So Ida and Deku don't like each other whatsoever. Ida's not going to apologize no matter what. And Deku's not doing the same. Like, he's just not apologizing to Ida for fucking shit. So, yeah, when Deku gets in there, he sits all the way at the front because he knows Ida's going to sit all the way in the back. He's all the way in the front. And with his speed, he gets there easily. Like, he just cuts in front of everybody and sits down in the seat he wants. So he's the first one seated. He's got his test put on his desk. He says, please wait till everybody's seated. And Deku's like, all right. So he's just literally just looking through the test, and he's just like, oh, okay, cool. And that's when President Mike gets in there, and he starts yelling, and Deku's like, I should have sat in the back, okay. And they tell him that all the rules and everything, and, Ida doesn't really make a scene this time. So, yeah, the test starts. Deku's the first one done, because he knows this shit. He passes with a solid 100. So he gets out of there and just waits at the front gate. And he's just waiting and waiting. And to him, time is going by really slow. Just because he's used to that high intensity combat pace that Nell's at, which is like close to light speed. Like, she has to slow down because Nell is faster than light speed. And Deku's just now getting a grasp on his powers. So he's not quite at light speed yet, but he's almost there, because if we remember right, Ichigo, it took him a little bit to get up to light speed with Byakuya. He actually had to go to Bankai to keep up with Byakuya, who was beyond light speed. So Deku's actually kind of not at light speed yet, but he's still the fastest in the universe right now. Like, there's no cap about that. Deku's faster than anybody. So, yeah, he's pretty much just chilling there. He puts in his music. He's listening to music. He's like hardcore metalhead, so he's listening to heavy metal and rock right now. Like, he's just jamming out. That's his shit. And Pantera actually starts to talk to Deku. He's just like, this is the music that I can agree with. And Deku just says, did you ever notice you were named after a band? And Pantera's like, what? And Deku says, yeah, I just found it. Want to listen? Pantera says, blast that shit, my boy. So they're just jamming out the fucking Pantera, and Pantera's just loving Pantera. So it's a Panteraception going on right now. And basically, like, Deku's just thinking, what should my hero name be? And Pantera says, you could just go with Grimmjow. Deku's like, nah. I'm his reincarnation. I'm not going to take his name. So comment down below. What do you want Deku's hero name to be? And I'm going to take 3 names that I like the most, and I'm going to put it on a community tab poll. So if your names are good enough, you'll see it on the community tab poll in a few days. So yeah, comment those names. Get thinking. So with that, Deku's actually pretty good, and like, everyone's finally coming out, and he's just jamming out. He doesn't even notice. And that's when he runs into somebody familiar, and he says, Deku, is that you? And Deku takes out his headphones and is like, Bakugo? And Bakugo's like, the hell are you doing here? And Deku's just like, yo, it's been a while. What's going on, Kachan? And Bakugo's just like, don't call me that, man. Come on. And basically, Bakugo's like, so, have you gotten any stronger? Deku says, dude, it's been over 4 years. Of course I've gotten stronger. What about you? Wait, of course you have. I already know you're stronger just from looking at you. We should have a fight sometime. It'd be fun. And Bakugo says, I'll take you up on that. Someday. After all, I'm a lot stronger. And basically, he's letting on to something, but Deku's just choosing to ignore it. Bakugo will tell him when he wants to. So, basically, everybody gets ready. And Uraraka, she's all the way at the back. Like, she was the last one to finish that test. And President Mike says, there's no countdown in a real battle. And Deku just says, then get on with it, as he just punches the fucking gates off their hinges. And he rushes in as, President Mike's just like, what? As everyone's looking astonished, just like, those were gates that even All Might had a hard time just pushing open like that. How is that kid just knocking them off the hinges? This is insane. As Deku just runs around, he's just destroying shit like crazy. He breaks through almost every single robot, and people can't even catch up with Deku. They can't even comprehend his movements. As Ida's about to destroy one, Deku sees this as the perfect opportunity. He rushes over there, grabs that robot by the head, and just yanks it off. As Ida just looks at the robot already being destroyed, and Deku's just holding the head. He's like, gotta be faster than that, kid. As he throws it down, and pretty much, like, Deku just sticks to fucking over Ida the entire time. And people notice that, so Deku's really getting a whole lot of villain points instead of hero points. But that's all gonna change pretty soon. You see, when the 0-pointer starts coming out, that's Deku's first interaction with Uraraka, but he doesn't choose to really just, like, save her because he wants to save her. He saves her because he sees a giant robot and just thinks jackpot, because everybody else is running away. But Bakugo and Deku are both running over to Uraraka, as Deku just tells Bakugo, go ahead and save the girl, I want the robot. As Bakugo says, deal. So Bakugo's moving all the rubble off, as Deku just says, Sero. As he blasts the robot straight through with a fucking Sero blast, just destroying it. And everyone's just like, wait a minute, that's his quirk? And Deku says, yeah, it's light projections. After all, the physical strength and speed's just from dedicated training. As they're just like, the hell? Deku's not going to tell him it's actually spiritual pressure and Rietsu. He's just like, yeah, they don't need to know that. It's too much for him. They'd have a panic attack. I'd be locked up and experimented on. Fuck that. And people notice that he has a sword on his hip, and they're just like, what's with the sword? Deku's like, oh, it's my weapon. I didn't even need to draw it, so don't worry about it. As they're just like, this guy's insane. Is he always going to carry a sword with him? What type of hero is this guy going to be? And Bakugo looks, and he just says, Deku, we need to catch up. As Deku says, yeah, we do. But that's where I'm going to be leaving it off. I hope you guys enjoy. As always, I've been the Crown Clown. I'll see you guys again later. Peace.